open meeting of the Grafton Planning and Building Committee being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted to the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through me taking care to identify yourself. So if I could just get everybody, I'll call your name and make sure that I can hear you. So we'll start with Beth.
Hi.
Okay, Lisa.
Hi. Hi.
John.
Hi.
Doug.
Hi. Hi. Hi.
Irene.
Hi.
Prabhu.
Here.
And then I see Mark.
Yep.
And is that it so far? Is Andy here?
Andy, yep.
And Andy. Okay.
I just want to confirm for the minutes then it's Julie and Doreen who are absent and Ron is not here, but everything else is the same.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Thank you.
Okay, so Lisa, you sent out the minutes. And everybody have a chance to review those? Is everybody good with that? We want to vote on those?
Those are the ones that were just sent today, or the ones that were sent?
Yeah, they were sent last after the meeting. Lisa's
Okay.
awesome about that. She sends them out as soon as before we even finish the meeting. They're out. So if someone wants to make a motion to pass those.
This is Beth. I read through them. I made a couple corrections just with commas for some of the blur amounts. I'll make a motion to accept them.
Okay, yeah.
February 1st.
Yeah. Do you want to make the clerical revisions now, or?
But I did.
Oh, you already did make
Yeah, because
them.
we're able to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, so
I-
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so by rule, did somebody want to second this?
Second?
Julie seconds.
So vote by roll call. Beth?
I
Lisa?
Hi.
John?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Irene?
Hi.
Prabhu?
Aye.
And Mary, aye.
Julie's here too.
Hey, Julie.
Hi.
Julie?
Hi.
Great. Okay, so now we're on to Andy with all the bills.
All the bills. Oh man, that's a tough intro. Yeah. So as I sent out in my email, we have one change for the requisition amount, but we'll get to that one in a second. So we've got four invoices that are sort of typical monthly ones, and then one from a vendor that we're getting into now. So the first one is for Colliers. Again, they're our commissioning agent. This is just their monthly bill for $868.05.
I make a motion that we pay Colliers $868.05. I'll second that.
Okay, vote by roll call. Beth?
I have a question.
Oh. Yeah, go ahead.
Andy, on that bill, it had, their fee and then like $9 in phone charges. What's $9 in phone charges? I mean, $9 isn't going to break the bank, but why is it not part of their fee?
Very often, expenses are not part of their fee. pretty normal. Like whether it's photocopies or travel or whatever, it's not unusual.
I think
We-
it's akin, John, to like gas, if they're traveling, or copies, as Andy mentioned, or in this case, phone.
We do.
And people don't have cell phones. I mean, that's, you know, that it's, I'm nitpicking, but it's like, you know, I don't understand.
Yeah, we do try to write contracts sometimes that include, that has any, any expenses are included in their fee, but it doesn't, most people don't accept that. Most people want to change it and make sure that they've got any kind of expenses like that outside of their fee. In
Right.
terms-
Well, if they were calling England and Saudi Arabia, I'd get it, but otherwise, just curious.
It does seem kind of nitpicky on their part, actually.
I would be curious what that represents. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when you got an itemized phone bill of every single call, that wasn't a local call. So they could legitimately say, okay, here's all my calls. I paid 50 cents for this call to Boston and 75 cents for that call to Springfield. You don't get that anymore, at least not that I know of. Maybe there are still places that are billing that way. So what does that represent? I'm kind of curious. Is it a portion of somebody's cell bill? Is it a 1% portion of their office bill? I am curious.
I think I took it as if they use Microsoft Teams as a platform for like Zoom calls. And so I took it as when there's a number that people call in or whatever, if they host it, I took it as part of that.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. That's what I understood.
Let's find out. I'm curious.
Yeah, just ask, because I thought everybody had an unlimited cell plan. This is, I hate to waste like town meeting 3 hours on 12 cents, but we'll let the $1 million go.
I can tell you, before I was a teacher, I was a contractor, and you would parcel out your bills to your people that you work for, so this might just be a small portion of whatever projects they have going on. And this could be a portion for that. I think this is very typical for contracted work.
Right. Like Mark said, if they've got a software fee that they have to pay, they take that fee and they split it up across all their projects, and we end up with, $8 a month on it. But I'll ask the question. Happy to.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
We did.
already
All
did.
that's done. We're just taking roll call now.
Excellent. Vote by roll call. Beth,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Prabhu,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
and Mary. Aye.
All right. Next up is for DA Sullivan, our OPM. This is the monthly invoice for $5,697 even.
I make a motion that we pay DA Sullivan the February invoice of $5,697.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, vote by roll call. Beth,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Prabhu,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Mary. Aye.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Next up is DRA. This is their regular monthly invoice for construction administration services for $8,423.16.
I make a motion, we pay DRA February's invoice, $8,423.16.
Second.
Any questions?
Yep, Andy. So in your notes, I believe you said they're either included in this or somewhere else they're going to add to our bill since the project is taking longer.
That's the next item. Well,
Okay.
this is their regular monthly one. Let's have that discussion next.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, vote by roll call. Beth,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Doug,
Doug, aye.
Irene,
Aye.
Prabhu,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Mary, I. Okay,
Great. Okay, so yes, we have actually, we're going to be having coming at us 3 addenda to the contract for DRA. They're asking for additional money for, so the additional work that's required for this landscaping scope that we're working on. They just sent us a revised proposal for extra work for the contaminated soil process that we went through, saying that they had additional time that was required that was outside of their scope. And then they just asked for additional money for the extended project duration. You know, originally, the original schedule was we were going to be done now, and now we're going till June. So they were looking for additional funds there as well. The only one that I had that was being invoiced for was the one for landscaping, which is why I put it out there. The one for extended project duration is for $98,270. So it's not a small amount. And again, Mark and I haven't even had a chance to talk about that one yet. And then we just got another one today, the one for the contaminated soils additional work for $4,975. So, and we haven't had a chance to talk about that one either, which is why I wasn't presenting those to either of you tonight, but I wanted to talk about them because they're both pretty significant. And then I don't even have it here, but on top of that, we've got Weston and Sampson, our environmental, our licensed site professional. They've got a second addendum to their contract that I'm looking at right now that's for another $84,000, which includes a bunch of work that's already been completed and also their guesstimate at what's going to happen this spring when we have to finish digging up dirt and removing stuff and having to test some more stuff. So between you know, DRA's additional services and Weston and Sampson's additional services, we've got kind of a hefty, you know, increase in design fees that takes a big bite out of our remaining contingency.
So Andy, my question is, isn't part of the delay of the whole project the architect, and how dare they charge us for their dragging their feet? And I brought it to your attention and to Mary's when they were dragging their feet on us on the interior design. So I'm going to speak up and I'm not going to be nice about it. I have a real problem with that. And also all the work for which, if it's legitimate, for all the soil contamination was done last spring. That's almost a year ago, you know, too bad, too late. So sad. You know, this says that they're not taking this project seriously. And that disappoints me because I've had a call. I just had a second one that they're looking for recommendations, and I don't know why they're calling me, but the third call better not get to me,
right?
Because it's not going to be as deferential as the first two. Then,
right. Well, that's why we're bringing it up, right? That's why we're bringing it up for discussion because so I have a little bit of a problem with the one for contaminated soil. It did happen a long time ago. The one for extended time, I had actually asked them for that months ago. When the project went from when it was originally going to be done to June 8th, I said, okay, so anybody get anything? You know, let me know what you're gonna be asking for extended time. That was extended time really due to construction, not them. I will totally agree with you that, you know, we were originally going to start this project much, much earlier, and it dragged out for quite a long time. So go ahead, Beth.
We moved out of 35 Grafton Common in May 2019, anticipating construction would be starting in June. And we didn't break ground until November. And those were solely planning and design changes and delays. We've already sent one formal reprimand about lack of communication from DRA and them taking way too long to get stuff to us. I think it's really unreasonable. And John, everything that you said, I was about to say, so thank you.
Yep.
I think just taking another tact, I think contractually I think what they're billing for is when the job actually started, physical construction to when it ended. And they're saying because of the contaminated soil issue, their contract is extended 5 more months, which I certainly can follow the logic of that. When that happened though, Andy came to us both many, many months ago and asked me the same question. And I said, contractually, yes, there's an argument that said, my services will be required an additional 5 months, but truthfully, 3 to 4 of those 5 months, we really weren't doing much of anything. It was just contaminated soils. There was no heavy lifting administratively. The job start date just got extended. So I didn't feel right, charging for additional time. If the same level of effort, if the contractor, say, was taking an additional 5 months for the work, and that meant the weekly and monthly meetings and so forth, and that meant a burden on administratively, that would be different. But in this case, that wasn't the case. And so certainly I think there's a contractual argument for DRA, but Andy just sent me that. So as he mentioned, we haven't had a chance to talk about that. So that's something that he and I need to go over. And the Weston and Sampson, the whole timing of that one, I don't get, because it's been 10 months, since the work was done. And some of Andy just sent me that before the meeting as well. And some of it, as Andy mentioned, it looks like they're billing for work that was already done, but they didn't bill out for all of it. Now this is for the remaining of it, but it's almost like they knew work that was going to be done, but they didn't give anybody a heads up. And now the work is passed and they're saying, here's the bill. So the timing is not great. And if it was $8,000, maybe, but it's $80,000. So that's a big item.
Right. So typically when we get things like this from the general contractor, what Mark and I do is we sit down with them, we push back, we work it, we work it out, and then we bring the final or the next number back to you all so you can take a look at it. And I think that's what we'll do here. We'll sit down with Ken and Ron. We'll walk through the logic. We'll hear their argument. They'll hear ours. They'll maybe hear some more, displeasure voiced from the committee. And same thing with Weston and Sampson. We'll certainly have us sit down and pick through their proposal, their addendum, and work through all that stuff again. And then we'll bring it back to you all. That's the way we typically handle everything else with the general contractor. And that's pretty much the way we would normally deal with this too.
And I think if we can just get some timelines together, because I think that Beth, you had a good point saying that, we moved the library and then we had all that time there. We've had some periods of time during COVID where we weren't doing a whole lot. So I think
the COVID shutdown was all of about 3 weeks, and we're going to be paying an extra 6 months in rent because of their delays.
Yeah. Right. But so, we should get some timelines together so that, that we have some backing to say, because would say 98,000, that's a lot of money.
Right. Yeah. And I've got the timeline. I can distill that down and have that,
great.
Have that prepared. That's something when Mark and I sit down, I'll have that ready.
Okay. Terrific.
Yep.
Good.
And I'll just add my voice to the displeasure. They're no. They don't get to do that. I know they think they do, but.
Plus, because of their delays, we've had other expenses, like we're having to spend 6 more months in the library at the church, so they set off some dominoes that they want to be compensated on top of other expenses that we do have to pay. So they need to really look at, did they manage this properly? And I would say they left things unattended for too long, and that's what's created some of these delays.
Yeah, and I would just concur with John. The interior subcommittee meeting seems to be just dragging on. I'm just surprised that like at the next meeting, we're spending a lot of time talking about the same stuff we talked about the previous meeting. Now, as a committee, it hasn't really bothered me too much because, we just get caught up again. But since they're charging for all that time, it seems like they could be much more efficient with that process.
I had a question. So going back to what Beth was saying, if we are paying 6 more additional months for rental and all those stuff. Is there a way we can quantify, and Andy, Mark, when you guys discuss, this could be an input for you guys, right? There is an additional cost. You charge us 88, well, here is our charge of 165,000 something.
It's easily quantified, actually. I've got it in my spread. I know what we've been racking up in costs, so yeah, it's easy to extract, yes.
Don't forget to include the air conditioning, which we wouldn't have needed if we moved in November instead of May.
Believe me, I have it all. I know what all those expenses are. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So the one item at hand that I brought to you was part of their additional services for the additional landscaping scope. So this is probably the one that's legit. Although even the value of this one, I think I'd like to poke at a little bit more. Again, Mark and I haven't really looked at this one. You know, this is the value that they're billing for, the $1,860 isn't much, but their proposal for landscaping was $9,300, and that's just for conceptual design, which they were allotted a week or two, and a conceptual estimate. So there's you know, I'd like to poke at that a little bit too, just to see what we can really get out of that, because that seems like, again, sort of a steep rate for the work that's being done right now. And I just want to make sure that we're, if it's $9,300 and it's 4 weeks of work and a conceptual estimate, then maybe that makes more sense. But I just want to make sure we know exactly what's there. The detail was not very strong in their proposal, so I think I just want to pick that apart a little bit with them, and it'll be part of the same conversation we're having with them about everything else. Yeah. But
I bet you there's some college kids out there that need a semester project that would love to design our landscape.
Now, there's a big difference between.
I know. I'm being somewhat sarcastic.
Yeah. All right.
But Andy, the drawings that I've seen of the landscape design, those weren't done by DRA, were they?
No. But the landscape
consulting
contract is through DRA.
Right. So they're consulting with DRA with this person. That's what they're charging us time for.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So Andy, do you need a motion to pay the $1,860 that you sent over for the landscaping, or do you need a motion for up to $1,860, or is that a real bill?
It's a real bill, but it's up to the committee. If you want to tell me that we need to go back and have a discussion about their 9,300, of which this 1,860 is just one part, then that's what we'll do. We'll go and do that first before we bring you a bill.
I think we need a meeting of the minds, and we don't have with what their cost is and what we're getting for that expense.
Right.
So I would move that we pass over this bill for $1,800.
That's totally.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of nods, so I think that we should have you go back.
I'll second that.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. All right. So the next one I have for you is for Biblioteca. So they're the folks. They're the vendor that's providing the book sorting machine, the remote checkouts. What else? Is there something else? Oh, the RFID system that's the panels at the entrances to the libraries. So they're a known vendor. Beth has been using them for a while, so they're nobody new. There's somebody we already know. I've got a PO just for the book sorting machine for $168,392, which is a good chunk of change. The line item budget that was created several years ago was for $150,000. So the difference there is really just time. And this initial invoice is for $84,196. But I wanted to make sure you all knew that the total amount for this particular item is, $168,392.
So on the bill, it has a flat screen monitor, wireless touch keyboards. It doesn't have prices associated with those. Are those built into the other figures, or are those yet to be billed?
So those items are all part of the equipment. They're part of this whole system. And this bill is just the first part of the first invoice for the overall book sorting machine. Pretty normal to get, like you get a bill that's in thirds or in different percentages. So that's all this is. It's the first
But I
percent.
think John's question is, you've got 5 line items, 3 of which have a price associated with them. 2 of them do not. So his question is there later going to be a price added, or are they not being charged individually, even though they are listed individually on the invoice?
No, the total price is the $168,392.
Okay, so those
Okay.
items just don't have a price by themselves.
Attached to them. Okay.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we pay Biblioteca the first part of their bill of $84,196, knowing that their bill will be total cost will be $168,392.
I'll second.
I have a question.
Okay.
Given that we are coming closer and closer to the approved budget, is there room for renegotiating, going back to the 150 if that was the budgeted number, some number?
Not at this point. What we need to do, quite honestly, is I need to get the rest of the furniture numbers, the furniture, we're getting pricing in from everybody, and we need to get all that stuff together so that we can see where we are with the overall furniture budget, because right now I just don't know quite where we are. And that's really what I need to get from Ron, is to get the final pricing so we can see this is one piece of a much bigger puzzle, right? So I just need to find out what that is. This I don't think I think Beth has actually negotiated some training that was going to be an additional cost already. So she's already done some negotiating on this piece.
I think we committed to them, to this equipment manufacturer. We haven't committed to anyone yet on the global furniture sense. And so as those numbers are still coming in, so the opportunity to revisit costs and so forth, that's where it would be on the orders that haven't been placed yet.
And that the stuff that we haven't made any commitments to is still a pretty big number.
Thank you.
Doug?
Can someone remind me, did we pick out Biblioteca, or was that part that was specific in our grant, or that was just one we picked after the grant?
So when I first embarked on the RFID project, we got 3 quotes from various companies as to the cost of the machinery. And they're a low enough bidder, and they're on the MHEC contract, which gives us additional discounts and support. So yeah, like inflation is part of the reason it's so expensive, but it's also important to, because we started with this system, we want to continue with the same vendor for the support, and so that everything is coordinated.
Yep. Thank you.
Then because of the way we do state purchasing, this is already the lowest price that we're going to get.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Beth.
Just say one other thing. The equipment comes with about a $20,000 annual software price tag. So one of the things I negotiated was that we would try to wrap that for the first year, and even for the first year and a few months, into this contract, so that I wouldn't get hit on the municipal side budget until FY23. And this rather expensive system is going to do the volume of 2 to 4 staff members who will not need benefits and salary. So it sounds like a big chunk of money to put out all at once, but it really is an excellent cost savings out of time. It's incredibly accurate. It's going to save on theft, and really the value is amazing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Vote by roll call. Beth?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Irene?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Mary? Aye. Okay, Andy?
All right. So,
Me, aye.
Doreen,
Oh, Doreen.
welcome to the party.
Oh, Doreen.
Right. So, yep. Now we've got the last one was just CTA's requisition number 16 for February. They had a late revision that brought this number to $453,625.55 for the month of February. Again, as always, Mark, Ron, Ken, and I have all combed through this, vetted it, pushed back on some things. They've made some changes. And this is the actual number that reflects the status of where we are with construction on the project for real.
So I make a motion that we pay CTA Rec number 16 for February 2021 in the amount of $453,625.55.
Somebody want a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
I have a
great, thank you.
question.
Does anybody have questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Irene.
Yep, I'm looking at the bill and it says that the current payment due is $439,375.55. Why is that not matching?
Say again?
I'm looking at the bill. I opened it up. I have it in front of me.
It's the one that says 16 Grafton February Rec Final Rev 1. The second, I sent it out separately today.
Okay, so hold on. Yes. I'm assuming that's what the file name says. So on the top, it says application and certification for payment, AIA document G702. Is that the one?
Yeah, they all say that.
Okay, so et cetera, and then if you come down here, it says number 8, you know how it says contractor's application for payment.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, et cetera. Line 8 says current payment due. And the amount in that box is $439,375.55.
You're looking at the original one, not the revision.
Yeah,
Oh, is that what happened? Okay.
yeah,
so
Irene, Andy sent out one afterwards, a little bit later in the day.
Okay,
A
gotcha. Sorry.
revised one.
Okay, my bad.
Nope, no worries.
Yeah, at 3:45.
Okay.
Yep, it was late.
The title, Irene, is updated requisition of this
Okay.
email.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Vote by roll call. Beth? Lisa?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Irene?
Aye.
Prabhu?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Doreen?
Aye.
And Mary? Aye. Okay.
I just want to once again say that I feel so lucky that we have Andy working for us. So thank you very much, Andy. Every month I feel it even more and more than I did the month before. Thank you.
Agreed.
Thanks.
He's working his way out. He's working his way out of a job, though.
Right, yeah.
That's the worst part.
All right.
So
what's next?
I don't know, maybe this will, are you still going through bills or was that our
No,
last
no,
bill?
we're good. We're good on bills, Doug. Yep, thanks.
Well, I don't know at what point that probably was going to ask, but just wondering where we are with the numbers and,
So-
with the contingent, like the remaining budget.
Right. So we can talk. We can do the cost report next if you'd like,
Yeah, whenever.
rather than the close report. So so actually what is not on here, go back up to the top. Thanks. So what's not on here yet is the actual addendum for contaminated soil, the landscaping pieces in there, the extended time from DRA isn't on here yet either, because I didn't have a chance to go through this stuff with Mark, and we weren't going to accept it without having some kind of a discussion. So I didn't want to include those in the cost report yet because we haven't committed them. But you can see, I mean, if we're talking about if we just took them as they are, and we're going to add 84,000, and I think when I looked at the numbers, we were going to our contingency was going to go down by about $180,000, and it's about 280 right now. So it was going to get it was going down quick, and we still have time to go here with site work and landscaping. So there's a couple of things that I actually wanted to talk to you all about, and one of them is, so Doug, on the fundraising side, if there's going to be, I know there's been some discussions in the past about whether it's the trustees or the friends or somebody's going to be giving some sort of a gift for, whether it's the glass handrail or whether it's something else. I think the time is upon us to sort of formalize that, if possible, just so because if we're gonna, we just need to sort of know across the board, especially if it's anything that has to do with scope that's within the project, not the additional landscaping scope. It would be important to know what we're going to have to work with so that we can see how things balance out. We're still going to go back to, to the design team and push on that, on those costs, but it would still be good to know sort of how we're going to bottom out here.
That sounds good. I mean, certainly the trustees committed to the handrail.
Yep.
And the capital campaign has funds available for other, other things.
Right. I guess my point is that it's becoming real all of a sudden because of some of these other costs. So we just want to make sure that we, we're trying to stay within our means, and if we have to cut from somewhere, we'll cut from somewhere. But if we've got some other funds coming in, I don't want to cut and then go, oh, actually we had money after all. So I don't know how we want to have those conversations, but we should, it's time to figure that out.
Can I ask a question that I saw, I think in the newsletter, Beth, about getting some sort of grant for like $14,000, and then that was given over to the Friends. Did that have something to do with this project?
I accounted for our state aid, which we get every 6 months. So in January, we got a check from MBLC, and that money gets banked in 3 different grant categories. It's at the trustees' discretion to spend, and that's what we've been banking, so they can write that check for $125,000 to the capital campaign to fulfill their obligation. So it's not like new money really or extra money. It's money that we get every year, but we've been setting it aside for 5 years specifically for the purpose of the construction project. So it will be part of the $125,000 that the trustees give from state aid and the trust accounts to the capital campaign.
So kind of going back to the spreadsheet, big picture, you don't have to share it, but big picture stuff, right? So there were sort of 3 pieces to the puzzle: engineering and soft costs, construction costs, and owner costs. On the engineering side, we're going to push back on the design team in terms of additional fees for some of these things. That's not an insignificant amount. Construction costs, again, we're doing okay in terms of change orders, Mark. I mean, we don't have a change order this month. We've got some relatively minor PCOs that I think are in play a little bit. But otherwise, construction right now, construction costs they've done what we said they were going to do. They've sort of leveled out in terms of change orders. And then owner costs, the big thing that's going to be there is just understanding what the whole furniture piece comes in at. So that's going to be really important because that's another thing that's obviously going to move the needle. There's some big numbers in there, and we just need to get our arms around what that looks like.
Yeah, I think the exposure prior to the additional services, those 2 invoices, which were big and they weren't on anybody's radar.
No.
Exposure going into the end of this month were the landscaping changes that weren't going to be covered by donors. So, whatever was left, that was going to become a change order to the contractor to do. So there's exposure there. And then the FF&E, the furniture, since it hasn't been ordered yet, if we're going to be over budget or whatever, potentially there's exposure there. So, but prior to the end of this month, we still had 280-ish thousand. And so everything looked reasonable. And then you get hit with those substantial extended services, and now all of a sudden it doesn't look as reasonable. So
I had a question. This is my first involvement with anything to do with government construction. So if we play out the scenario wherein we burn out our contingency, right? So let's say the 180 goes away and then we are left with 100. We still have 4 months to burn through. Something happens next month and woof, we are done with the 100,000. At what point of time with these kind of government projects, at what point of time we need to get back or stop the project, or what happens wherein we say that, hey, we are going to run out of money, or we are run out of money, there is no contingency left, we need to get approved. In my corporate world, I need 90 days, 120 days advance notice, as well as I can't pay that, right? How does it work here? Just curious, I'm not too sure how that works.
in a public project, you can't direct the contractor to do anything you can't pay for. So if we know moving forward, or we don't know, and we're concerned that there's only a few months left in the project, but there's too much exposure, then maybe you can only do what you can control. So maybe we eliminate some things, or we don't do those donor landscaping items that might lead into additional work, and we just hold off on all that until all the bills are paid, and then we do that separately. Or the FF&E, we hold off on some of the equipment, we use used furniture in the offices or something. So there's always things to do if you have avenues to go down. The worst thing is to order the FF&E, commit to those change orders, and then find out too late that you don't have enough money to pay for it. That's a bad situation for everyone.
Can we? So I think I sort of understand, Mark. So it ties back to what are the levers that we have at this point of time to pull if we need to, right? You cannot, what I am understanding is you cannot abruptly stop the project and say that all contractors, we are run out of money, tomorrow is your last day. There's going to be a winding down cost, equipment moving cost, and so on and so forth. So can we, not to sound too negative, but can we start looking at that and saying that we are very close to burning out our contingency approved amount? I don't know, we need to go back to the town to get further approval if we need to, or these are the levers that we can pull to contain it and pull it back within the numbers. I would like to see those pulled together and presented as part of maybe your clerk's report, Andy. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure the other members of the committee, how they feel.
I mean, I can certainly pull together a report that shows you the money that we haven't committed to yet, right? So uncommitted. That's pretty easy to pull out, so we can see where the potential, stops are. That's not hard to do.
Okay.
Yes.
Submitted the quotes for the AMH, the materials handler, the security gates, and the 2 additional self-checks, and a device called a mobile DLA, which helps work the whole RFID system from the stacks. I submitted all of those as a request for the capital planning committee for the town to consider partially funding from money they've already collected to help us defray our costs. But I think the sense from that group may be, well, you already built it into your budget, so we don't need to give you money. And Doreen, I don't know if this conversation gives you any insight as to why I put in for that, for the town to help us out with those costs. They are capital expenses, so they qualify.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Beth. I'm not personally on CIPC. But it's fine. This is great information to know, and certainly tell that we have 2 board members that do serve on CIPC, as you know. And I think this kind of information, if you haven't shared it with the committee already, maybe bring it up to them, because as they're going through their capital items and list it out as a matter of importance, because if they think that it's already budgeted, they may, put it lower on the list. So it's definitely worth mentioning. And I also just want to say too that, Andy, I would love to see the list of things that we are not committed to at this point. I think it will just kind of give me in particular, but the whole committee, just an idea, a clearer picture of where we're at financially with this project.
Got it.
And, that being said, I have faith that, you guys know the stopping points of, landscaping, furniture, things like that, where we have some wiggle room, but I just think it would be helpful to kind of see a list. I agree with Prabhu on that.
Sure. Yep, can do.
And I think doubling back to what Andy said earlier with Doug, now is the time to start seeing where are we at globally, and whether it's the friends or the trustees or individual donors, it's one thing if it's an idea or it's a hope to donate type of thing versus if it's real. If it's really going to happen, then we can add that to the the ledger and see where we're at, and so we can make a decision, the most informed decision that we can make.
Right.
Also wanted to make sure that Library Planning and Building Committee is aware that it was brought to our attention that the cupola on the top of the historic part of the building, which was repaired, I think in 2003, is starting to show signs of wear and tear that were not there in 2017 when we applied for this grant. But I also submitted that as a capital, the CIPC request. There's Mass Historical Commission money that might help pay for that. And then we also still have solar panels on the table, which if we get our lead bonus, that will help cover that. That was estimated at around 115,000, but I also put that in as a CIPC, just so the town understands that just because we're putting all of this money into the building now doesn't mean we don't touch it for 20 years. It does have these ongoing maintenance costs. And I'm always looking for grant opportunities. There is an EBSCO solar power panel grant that I'm going to try to apply for, but just because you apply for that money doesn't mean we get it. But we're really trying hard to keep our costs low. And finally, I've said this before, we don't have to have everything opening day. We don't have to have everything planted. We don't have to have a grand piano, which nobody's offered to buy yet. We don't have to have every single piece of furniture. And in fact, if we're able to say, hey, we got these cool geo chairs and we really love this upholstery, but we need to buy 4 more to fulfill what we wanted to put in group study 4, somebody is going to come along and give us the money for it.
Beth, I think those are all great points, and I want to thank you too for submitting all those things to CIPC as well, because I know with that they want to see a full, clear picture of all capital items for the next 5 years across the board. So, and you just made a great point. Just because, let's say with capital funding for the town, it may not be this year, but it could be 2 years down on the priority list, and we're going to be able to see, okay, that's something that we're going to be able to hold off on, but eventually will, potentially come through as a capital item. So I think it's awesome. Thank you.
We want to take care of that before it gets damaged to the point where it's leaking again, and then undoes all of the renovation work that we're doing in that room.
Yeah, and it helps the building, but it also helps the planning, right? So financial planning, yes.
And CIPC came back with great questions that really helped me clarify those applications.
I'm not surprised. That's great.
Do we know when CIPC makes a final recommendation and when that money's available?
I can find out, John, and send an email out. We've had a transition with the new TA last week. And so, I think committees like CIPC were waiting for him to come on board. So I would imagine sooner than later, but I can see if I can get a date and I'll let the committee know.
And I'm embarrassed to say, I don't think that's part of town meeting, is it? Or is it?
It is part of town meeting, yes.
Is it special town meeting? Is that where that comes in?
No.
No.
Nope. It'll be part of town meeting.
Okay, so John, it can be special town meeting. It all depends on who's proposing what when.
Right. Okay. And for Doug, for the money that you guys are raising, are any of the funds that you're raising, can that go into backfill some of this in terms of specific rooms or whatever things that you've identified as donors? Is that being transferred as the project goes on, or is it at what stage of the process does the the building committee, I guess, get that money to spend.
Well, I think that's Andy's point is, and Mark's is they need to know that money's now, right? The sooner the better, right? So for example, the railing that the trustees contributed to was like 18.5, I think they committed to. We can go ahead and work on transferring that money. Anything that we've come up with the capital campaign, you know, we can start setting those monies aside. I mean, that the capital campaign, I mean, the donations are kind of a mix. Some of them are for specific items. Some of them are items that are out of this project scope, and some of it's just a pool of money that is kind of at the discretion of the capital campaign. But
Okay.
I mean, I think Andy's made a good point that we can start spending that now.
Right.
Nothing that prevents us from spending it now.
But I think if we, you know, I'm making these numbers up, if there's $150,000 worth of landscape work that we've identified and only, you know, half that amount of donations, then we can prioritize and cut the list and hold back and just wait until all the dust settles, and then you can move forward if you want to with the other stuff in the future.
Right, and that's exactly how we're approaching it. It's broken up into packages already, and some of those can be broken up into sub pieces. So we're not absolutely not planning on engaging in something that we can't afford.
Right.
I want to just want to see if we should put a plan in place, because we're spending all this money, and I think it's great that Beth's doing all this work. But the question's going to be, why wasn't this just included in the budget in the $12 million? Why didn't they have the chairs that they needed? Why wasn't that included in the project? Now it's a CIPC, and then the library project's actually costing us more money. Maybe they shouldn't have used that $1 million for the DPW. So like, is there a way for us to go to the select board and Andy present and lay out this, like, well, these were the outstanding items or bills that came to us that we weren't originally counting when we came to the $12 million. Like, I'm just trying to think of the PR that the committee, we're knee deep in it, right? But I'm going to wait and say something to my husband. He's going to be like, that library's costing even more money than we already said, you know? So like, we get it, but I think the majority of people in Grafton may not get it. So how do we get the word out there so Beth doesn't ask CIPC and get asked that question 10 times?
That's a good question.
Some of it is just inflation, right? We got the estimate at the end of 2016 to apply for a grant in January 2017. And that was 4 years ago. So the prices for everything went up. It's not like we're picking extravagant upholsteries or tile or carpeting at.
But we also are losing $1 million or two on contaminated soil that was not on anybody's radar. So that threw us for a loop that I don't think any of us had expected in our wildest dreams.
Right. I mean, if you look, I haven't done the math to go back and look, but outside of the contaminated soil, which is a big number, our level of change orders on this project is actually pretty minimal. I mean, it's got to be single digits in terms of percentage. So in terms of what you'd see for a change order percentage on a typical public project, I think we're actually doing really well. Certainly the contaminated soil blew that out of the water, but the regular stuff that you find on a project has actually been pretty well controlled.
So my point is, we all know that.
Right.
But when Beth goes to CIPC or a year from now, like, how do we head that? Or maybe we don't head it off, but I'm just like, how do we head that off?
Lisa, I think it's a great point. And, you know, I think there's opportunity here to do a little bit of PR beyond this group, because we want, at the end of the day, you know, this project, when it's completed, we want the majority, at least, of the people in the town to really love the final project and be happy with it and want to continue to support their library. So one thing that comes to mind is we have hired a new communication specialist in the TA's office, and he's been great getting out information. And I think that maybe I could sit down with him, with Andy or something. We could do a Zoom call and just put some kind of press release out there, put some kind of, you know, positive information about an update about what's going on, but also be honest with people and say, you know, this is what we've ran into. And then we have, we have something in writing to go back to and refer to. So if it's a year from now and CIPC says, well, what about this? Or, how come we didn't get the 4 chairs or this and that? And, this was expensive and we approved this and I can't believe the library went over. We can say, well, no, we gave information along the way. This is what happened. So I think the people who are interested in that will read it right away, but it also kind of gives us the opportunity to kind of, cover our basis down the road. So as things continue to expand, we have been transparent with the rest of the community. So Andy, if you're cool with that, I can talk to the new TA, Evan, and see if we can maybe talk to William in the coming weeks and just see if he can put together an update. And of course, if the rest of the committee is good with that too.
Yep, absolutely. I can pull together some stuff for that. That'd be a great conversation to have.
And of course, you're always welcome to board meetings. We love having you.
And I haven't done an update for quite a while, so maybe it's time, And I think it actually, for the public, it's probably is time just to kick something out and to say, hey, by the way, we're going to be getting ready to open this thing up. We are coming into a great finish, and just kind of push some really good positive information out, but include everything that needs to be out there. Sure.
Yeah, and we could do something monthly, like leading up to the opening, to start getting people excited about it. So, it can obviously pertain information that is important, like the budget, but also just kind of give people a sneak peek who haven't been paying attention on what's going on. So
yeah.
Thank you, Lisa, for bringing it up. I think it's very valuable.
It's time.
I love the change order data, I love stats, right? Like I love the fact that on average, the projects usually have 52 change orders. We only had 17, so like that type of, one of them had to be pretty big, with the contamination of the soil. But I mean, if we could just lump sum that contamination of soil was a large unexpected amount, I think that explains it right there. But thank you. That was awesome. I think that type of stuff is going to be great for people to hear.
Yeah, I think we have
part of.
Go ahead.
And part of your communication when you do this, do you want to also have Doug's participation but we're also raising money for extra and above, so that you don't leave that out?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we have a great story. I think there's some really fantastic stuff happening. There's some amazing support from donors, and I think that absolutely should be part of this.
Yeah, and our committee is also looking at doing publicity also, right? Just to show how successful and how excited the donors have been with the project.
As someone I've probably been involved in maybe 15 library projects, and so don't for a minute think the level of participation from donors and the trustees and the friends is normal. It is so far above normal, above average, that you should be telling everybody you can tell how much support that the community is giving to the library.
There you
Awesome. All right, so Doug, I'll include you in those conversations too. And this is, just to kickstart. If anyone has ideas, certainly Beth, I'll be reaching out to you and including you as well. And we'll get going on this and let the committee know where we stand and what the timeline is. So I'll start with Evan tomorrow.
Great.
Doug, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask Doug if you could kind of give a ballpark number of what, I don't know what the fundraising is like.
Well, if you recall at that original town meeting, I think we told the community that we were trying to raise $800,000.
Yeah.
And we are very close already.
Wow, that is excellent.
Yes.
Good job.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
It's amazing.
It is pretty phenomenal. And just obviously talking to individual donors and how excited they are and how excited their friends are, and just hearing all those stories is really exciting.
I'm excited. I got to see the building today too. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I will say there's I'm trying to think what percentage. There's a significant percentage that are out of scope projects, like the patios and stuff like that. So it's not like, there are some specific projects that are being funded by those donations.
Right. Is that where the green roof is coming from?
The green roof, yep, is one
Yeah,
of those.
that's
And
gonna
the
be
children's
so sweet.
patio amphitheater in the back is another.
Nice.
Yep.
But
Nice.
25% is out of scope for Dana.
Yeah, that's nice.
All right, well, that was a lot on cost, but deservedly.
But you ended on a good note.
I know, right? I know. We did.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add, Andy, for updates or?
Well, I've got my clerk's report. I'll give you the short version of that is that we are, in terms of the project, we're turning the corner and headed for home in terms of being done with we're heading towards finishes, basically, is the short version, where the walls are being painted, ceilings are going in. Next week, we're going to have interior glazing, glass. Wood doors are going to start to go in next week. So it's going to start to look like a finished product really, really soon. Ceramic tile, VCT tile is coming in end of this week. So we're, it's starting to get, it's going to start to get some polish on the inside in the next few weeks. So that's really where we are right now. Permanent power is we just got approved to contact Engrid to be able to turn on the permanent power to the building. So that's always a major step towards completion. So yeah, that's what am I missing, Mark? You always find the things I forget.
No, not a lot. I mean, you mentioned the permanent power. There weren't many trades that were kind of stalled out for work that weren't able to proceed, but the elevator was one of them, and they needed permanent power to do that. With the permanent power coming online, the elevator subcontractor can come back and finish, but it's very much on the downhill side, as Andy mentioned. Once you have floor finishes and wall finishes, then the mechanical, electrical trades start putting their finish trims on wall registers, ceiling registers, light fixtures, switch plate covers, literally the final things. And so the millwork is going in, the window sills. Julie, if you were there today, you saw some of that. So they're in a good spot, and the project is almost taking care of itself, because the preceding trades are pushing the people ahead of them, and there's somebody to follow, and so that's going along well. And I just come back to where we started the conversation on the landscaping items, things that we got to nail down, prioritize, price, and start. Because the worst thing, one thing that came up at a job meeting a week ago was the contractor saying and they're going to keep going and do what's shown on the contract unless we give them a stop work order. And we don't want to give them a stop work order because we haven't figured out the numbers yet on the landscaping, or what the patio is going to look like, or we're picking out a different stone, because we're going to get another charge from the contractor. So we don't want to do that. So we need to push that forward, and we need to push the furniture forward and get those numbers and get those orders released as soon as we can. Initially, back in January, the target date was March 1st. Today's March 1st. So hopefully, we're going to go past that. Hopefully not too much, but it's the kind of conversation that it can drag. And I get the sense from a lot of people, a level of discomfort that it's already starting to drag. So we need to place those orders as soon as we can.
Right. Now, I know that Ron has a meeting, I think, Beth, with you and with the furniture rep on Thursday. And that's really I think we're very close with a whole lot of this. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get that nailed down so we can see where the pricing really is.
So I asked to have those requisitions and floor plans to look at by Tuesday, end of day, so that I have a day to review them and don't just sit in a meeting for 3 hours. So I'm going to CC you on that.
Okay. All right.
Because I feel like I can't meet with them if they can't provide it ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah, and if you want any of the other committee members to review that with you, let us know. I have a question for Andy.
Yep.
Sure.
At what point does the fire sprinkler system become active, to protect the actual building? Is that literally just towards the very end?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's been it's all been tested. It's been pressurized and tested. It's the main to the building is actually full of water. It's been flushed and now it's filled. But yeah, the system won't be actually ready to be used till we get a little bit further down. We don't have permanent power yet, so fire alarms and things like that aren't attached. So there's, we've got to have the whole system, the whole fire alarm system, fire suppression system, all working before we can have that charged.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question for Andy too, and
Sure.
maybe this was brought up earlier, but I think at our last meeting you mentioned the top of the roof on the south side. They're generators or something. They're on top. I noticed them the other day, and we're going to try to figure out a solution to cover those. Is there a solution? Yeah.
So the progress that we've made is I got a couple of 6-foot tall panels that are up on the roof right now. And I think I sent a picture to the Historic District Commission. So we've had a couple of talks about that. I wanted to get a couple of panels up there so people could see sort of what 6 feet looks like or what 3 feet looked like. And so we've had a couple of ideas about what might happen up there. I think I want to keep that conversation going because my concern overall is that I don't want to do something that's going to be worse than what you see right now. And I just want to make sure that we're doing something that's historically appropriate and isn't gonna, I don't love the fact that we can see them, but I don't want to make it worse with something else. So I'm just trying to find the right balance in terms of what the material is, what the height of it is, and just get some more input. So, John, do you have any comments?
Historic District is meeting on Thursday, and this will be discussed. It's on the agenda. We did get the pictures that you sent out last week, so I'm sure you'll be a part of that meeting as well. They have some ideas about wrought iron that would mimic some of the wrought iron that's in the front of the building, in front of the windows. It's not a total conceal, but it's more of a distraction. So you're not focused on the air conditioners. You're more focused. You just see the wrought iron. So that was one option.
Okay, yeah. So it's an ongoing conversation right now. I got those panels up there on the roof just for scale, so we could sort of have a discussion about how tall is 6 feet or 3 feet or whatever. So we'll have that conversation on Thursday, and then I think hopefully I'll be able to get down to where we can price a couple things out and figure out how to come up with a couple of potential solutions. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And would that, John, need to be done before the building is open, given what we just talked about the budget for the HCC to approve? Like, what is your process on that?
I'm not sure. I don't know if we're supposed to approve all these things along the way. And this is another one of my beefs with the architect. They knew this was important to us. They knew it. We fought and got windows punched into the front of the building that were just a blank wall. So they knew what the building, when you drove past on South Street, was critical for the district. And for the architect to say, well, we didn't know. And it's like, but you did know at some point, and you didn't communicate that to us. So I'm not real sure. Certainly if there's no money, there's no money. But I think that this is something that our charge is to protect the character of the common. And this definitely has a negative impact. And we want to do all we can to not go overboard, to not gild the lily, to not make it look worse than it does already. And so I think, that's what we do, is we try to come up with a compromise that everybody feels like they got a little bit of what they were trying to do. So, that's the goal. I don't know if it can get done before the building is substantially completed. I don't know. I mean, Andy could tell you more in terms of, because he talked about this would disrupt the roof, so you'd have to redo some roof
I have some ideas about that too. Well, I think it's going to depend on what we come up with for solutions, but I think there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. That depending on fabrication time and how we affix it to the roof, it's doable within the time frame that we have. But you know, it's not required for substantial completion in terms of what the building department's going to look for. But in terms of final approval from HDC for the overall project, it's something we want to get done.
Okay. Mark, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's pretty much it, I think, at this point.
Great. And John, did you have anything else you wanted to add for the historic?
Other than we're going to meet on Thursday to discuss this
Okay.
further.
Great. All right. And did anybody else have anything else?
Do we have an interior committee update for the minutes? And if not, then I can just write none.
We've been meeting very regularly. We're very behind in approving and posting our own minutes, but I did yesterday create a photo album of interiors because we are so close to choosing. So I can pull up if we want to see some pictures of the final carpeting selections, some final upholstery recommendations. Now, there's still a chance that they could change, but I mean, I have some stuff to show. It's also so.
You posted that on the website, right, Beth? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, so it's on the Grafton Public Library Facebook page.
Facebook.
And then there's a separate, you go to photos and there's an album. There's three. There's site work, construction, and now an interiors one. Yeah, so again, we're close to making our final choices. Ron did go through and update the furniture floor plan to show what chairs were going in which spaces. So I just want to make sure that that's accurate. That's why we're meeting on Thursday. We think we're pretty close for shelving and we'll have room to spare. So we'll open with some space for growth, which is something that keeps me up at night. My nightmare is we move back and there's not enough shelving because we kept it low for sight lines because we knew we wouldn't have all the staff we need. So those should get finished up on Thursday, and I'm very close to releasing all of the minutes, but you can at least get a sneak peek on the Facebook page of what we're looking at. Lime green and teal blue and purple and golden, and it's going to look really nice. The main reading room, I think, is particularly beautiful with a navy rug with a gold fleur-de-lis kind of print on it, and more classic as opposed to more modern. Light maple throughout. I think the choices are good, and it'll be really beautiful.
Nice. Very good. All right, great. Well, if there isn't anything else, I think we can make a motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, I'm being such a pain, Mary. The minutes.
Oh, we want to do
for the next meeting. We have April 5th already scheduled, and then the next Monday after that would be May 3rd. Is that true for everyone? Okay. Yep. Perfect. All right.
And then the next is June 7th before June 8th, which is the substantial completion date. So we only have 3 more meetings.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. That's something.
We might be paying bills for a while, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of bills.
I didn't add the kinda.
Try to think about talking to make a presentation at town meeting. If so, someone would need to get us on the agenda. I forget when it's scheduled for, if it's May or June this year. Let's keep it on our radar.
So Mary, now I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:16.
I'll second.
Okay. Vote by roll call. Beth.
Hi.
Lisa.
Hi.
John.
Aye.
Doug.
Aye.
Irene.
Aye.
Prabhu.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Doreen.
Aye.
Mary. Aye. Thanks, everybody.